Jai Hind. Modern history of India. We are going to start from today. This is the one-liner facts which has been compiled by the Ghatna chakra, and we are going to read that out simply. Advent of European companies, the kind of summary or the short notes which has been included, revision notes included in recent Ghatna check, that is to be read out in this. Advent of European companies. Vasco da Gama, uh, led by Gujarati guide named Abdul Mazid, arrived at Calicut. Abdul Mazid, Vasco da Gama, led by Gujarati guide named Abdul Mazid, arrived at Calicut, a port situated on the Indian western coast on 20th May 1498. He had successfully discovered the sea route to India. The then ruler of the Calicut, the Jamorin, welcomed Vasco da Gama. The arrival of Vasco da Gama in India started new era of trade between the Portuguese and India. Vasco da Gama made 30 times more profit in the business of black paper. 30 times. That is a huge profit. So the business of black paper, which was enough to lure other merchants to India. आज भी, even today, if you get 30%, 60 times more profit, that would be much more profitable, and we would go for that definitely. In 1505, Francisco de Almeida arrived at India as Indian first Portuguese governor and viceroy. Considered this first Portuguese governor, Francisco de Almeida. He arrived in 1505 in the light of Portuguese trade interest and to establish Portuguese opportunity in Indian Ocean. Almeida rendered blue water policy. Who discovered blue water policy? We can say that Francis Almeida discovered the blue water policy. Hence, the blue water policy was being discovered by Francis Almeida, Francisco de Almeida, and next Afonso de Albuquerque came as governor in 1509 after Almeida. First Portuguese governor Francis de Almeida, he made blue water policy in 1505. Next came Alfonso de Albuquerque, being governor in India in 1509 after Almeida. 1509, Francisco de Albuquerque. In 1505, he snatched Goa from Yusuf Adil Shah, ruler of Bijapur, and established his authority there. Snatched. He took away the Goa. He is known as the real founder of the Portuguese power in India. Who is considered as real founder of Portuguese power in India is Afonso de Albuquerque. Al-Bakr in 1511 captured Malacca. 1511 he captured Malacca, an important Southeast Asian market, and in 1515 captured Hormuz, situated at the mouth of Persian Gulf. Nino da Cunha assumed as the governor office after Al-Bakr in 1529 and remained the governor till the end of 1538. Sea route to India was discovered by Portuguese traveler Vasco da Gama, where the Spanish traveler Columbus discovered the route to America. Captain Cook of the Britain discovered a route to America. Captain Cook of the Britain discovered a route to Australia, and the Thompson of the Holland discovered Van Diemen's Island, currently called Tasmania and New Zealand, in 1503 at Cochin. First Portuguese fort, first European fort in India was constructed by Afonso de Albuquerque, who is considered to be the real founder of Portuguese empire in India. He was not a viceroy then, but he and did that during the 1503. At that time, Francisco de Almeida, who discovered blue water policy, Francisco de Almeida was the Governor General, and mm, Portuguese were the first established trade relation with the Indian during medieval period times. The sequence of arrival of Portuguese companies to India is simply PDEDF. Portuguese, Dutch, English, Dance, and French. Portuguese were the first to arrive and last to go. In 1498, they came and last to exit from Goa. 1961. In 1961, the Portuguese Governor General was the Manuel Antonio Vassallo e Silva. Jose Frain Boza. That means first Governor General of Portuguese in India was Francisco de Almeida, and real founder was Albuquerque, and last Governor General of Goa was Manuel Antonio Vassallo e Silva. Jose Ferreira Bosa was the Governor General of Goa when India got independence in 1947. Among all European powers, Portuguese were first to establish trading center in India. This was one of the most important thing. Portuguese in 1503 established their first factory at Cochin, whereas their second factory was established at Cannour in 1505. 1503 first factory at Cochin, and in 1534 Portuguese successfully got the uh, permission of the ruler of the Bengal Ghiyasuddin Muhammad Mahmud Shah to open a factory at Satgaon and Chatgaon. Hooghly was used as a base by Portuguese to for plundering activities in the Bay of Bengal. In 1632, Mughal King Shah Jahan completely destroyed all establishment of the Portuguese in Hooghly and imprisoned thousands of Portuguese residents. Job Charnock, head of the factory of Kasim Bazaar, selected Sutanuti, a place which was later known as Calcutta, instead of Hooghly for the English trading center. This is how in 1690 he established Calcutta. Job Charnock. He established Calcutta in 1690 as a base of Englishmen. Dutch were first to start a joint stock company in India. Dutch were the first to start joint stock company. Who were the first to start joint stock company? Dutch. In 1602, by a resolution passed by Dutch Holland, Dutch means Holland, Dutch Parliament, a United East India Company was established in 1602. United East India Company was established, which was by Dutch. It had a capital of 6 lakh 5 ones tens hundred thousand ones tens hundred thousand 10,000 lakh 10 lakh 65 lakh guilders. This company had monopoly to trade, to attack, and to win territories in India and Eastern countries. Its eastern center was situated in Batavia, currently called Jakarta. Eastern Empire of Dutch was operated and administered by this company. Its partners worked as a private group. Dutch constructed Fort Williams at modern Kochi in 1663 after defeating Portuguese. Kochi in 1814 was included in the British settlement in 1599. The England, a group named Merchant Adventure, founded English East India Company, or the Governor and Company of Merchants trading into the East Indies. In December 16, this is going to be used information. In December 1600, Queen Elizabeth of the England granted East India Companies the charter for 15 years to trade with East. East India Company, 6 December 1600. Akbar was the king of then. East India Company, which has ruled over India for more than 200 years. Akbar, when Akbar was the king during 1556 to 1605, in 1600, December month was there, 1600, Queen Elizabeth of England granted East India Company the charter for 15 years to trade with East. 11th Company in 1693 got charter for land trade with India during the reign of Jahangir in 1611. East India Company established their first temporary factory at Masulipatam. This the first factory established by any European country was at Cochin in 1503, and by Portuguese and by English East India Company. The first factory was set up in 1603 at Surat, which was first permanent factory, and temporary factory was established at Masulipatam in 1611. During that period of time, Jahangir was the ruler of India, and Dutch established their factory at Surat. Dutch first in 1611. English 1613. Surat. English established. Now Dutch established their factory at Surat in 1616. Dutch. Followed by French in 1668. Thomas Best means in Surat. First permanent factory was set up by British in 1613. Next, this was by English, and 1616 by Dutch, and 1668 by French. Everybody, three nations established their factories at there. Thomas Best was the English officer who defeated Portuguese at a place named Soli in 1661. King of Britain Charles II married Portuguese Princess Catherine in 1661. King of the Britain Charles II married Portuguese Princess Catherine and got Mumbai as a gift. It was given as a dowry, which was leased to East India Company on a payment of £10 annually. Oh my God. English Governor of Bombay John Child in 1688 surrounded Mughal port in Bombay and another Mughal port in western coast and tried to imprison Hajj traveler going to Makkah. As a result, Aurangzeb expelled him from India. John Child in 1688 was expelled by the Jahangir as he captured the Hajj travelers. First Carnatic War from 1746 to 48 was just an extension of the War of Succession in Austria, which started in 1740. In 1746, English and French started war without the consent of their home nations in India. English army under the leadership of Captain Burnett seized French ship, which was the instantaneous region of war. During the First Carnatic War, the Nawab of Carnatic was Anwaruddin. The Nawab of Carnatic was Anwaruddin, sent an army of 10,000 men under the leaders of Mahfuz Khan to attack the French. Under the leadership of Captain Paradise, the French defeated the force of Nawab at a place called Santhom at Adyar River. With the end of the war in the Europe, the war in India ended too with the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. That means First Carnatic War ended with the treaty named Aix-la-Chapelle in 1748. Austrian Succession War ended and Madras was again granted to English. Madras was given to English as during the war French captured Madras, and with the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, French returned that to the English. Duplex, for the first time, used tactics which guided the future campaign for Englishmen. It was Duplex who appointed European forces into Indian courts and on Indian expenditure and interfered in the internal conflicts of kingdom in light of European interests and sown the seeds for European rule in India. Colbert, a minister of Louis XIV, this is very much important. Louis XIV founded a French East India Company in 1668. Point to be noted. In 1600, East India Company from England was made, and now the French East India Company was made in 1664, which opened its first factory at Surat in 1668. This is to be considered, which is known as a campaign des Indias Orientals. It has been written in the French, that's fine, but it can be known as the French East India Company. All its expenditure was sustained by the state. In 1667, Francis Francois Caron headed the expenditure to India, setting up a factory in Surat in 1668, which we discussed. Markara, a Persian who appointed Canon, found another French history in the Masulipatam in 1669 and obtaining a patent from Sultan of Golconda. Dutch established their first factory at Masulipatam. This is a huge development. Dutch established their first factory at Masulipatam, and in 1666 Dutch established their factory at Surat also. And in Bengal they established their first factory at Pipali, in Bengal, in the context of Bengal region, Pipali was the place where they established their first factory. The trade with the Bengal started properly when the Dutch in 1653 established their factory in Chinsura. In Chinsura, the Dutch fort was called the Gustavus Fort. The European got high trade, opium and saltpeter from the Bihar during the English rule. Bihar was famous for opium production. Bihar was famous for the opium production. Bihar was very much famous during the English rule for the opium production. Mahatma Gandhi also took something from the Nile indigo cultivation. Now, in which year Vasco da Gama arrived at Calicut? 1498, 2nd of the May 9, 1498. This was a huge development. Vasco da Gama arrived on the western coast port of Calicut on May 20, 1498 AD. He discovered a new sea route to India. He was welcomed by Zamorin, the then king of Calicut. The voyage of Vasco da Gama opened the new trade dimension of Indigo-Portuguese alliance. Vasco da Gama earned 30, 60 times. What an profit! What an idea! 60 times profit in Europe by black paper trade from India, which encouraged other Portuguese traders. The Indian Portuguese merchants, their commercial firm in India at the port of Calcutta, Goa, Damandiu, and Hooghly. Francisco de Almeida came to India in 1505 as the first Portuguese governor, and Albuquerque came to India in 1509. After him, a new viceroy. He annexed Goa in 1510 from the Vizapur ruler Adil Shah. The Portuguese maintained Goa as the epicenter of their culture and entity. And in 1961, Sam Silva was the Governor General of during last period time. They left in 1661. When did Vasco da Gama came to India? Again, the repeated question, 1948. Next question. Who was the first Portuguese viceroy of India? First Portuguese viceroy was Francisco de Almeida. And who among the following had welcomed Vasco da Gama's Zamorin king? King Zamorin. And Vasco da Gama, Great Portuguese. He Cook was from Great Britain, and Vasco da Gama from Portugal, and Columbus from Spain. He took something from, and this is end of the first chapter. Thank you.